Consumables in the Fallout games have always held a sort of niche place throughout the franchise as a one-off emergency throwaway tool for when you really need something dead. That being said, outside of this use, most people, myself included, really don't put too much thought into these forgettable weapons. Today I wanted to change that, as today I aim to find out, can you beat Fallout 4 with consumables only? The rules of this run are about as on the nose as you can get. I can only use single-use weapons, like grenades or any traps I can find. The obvious problem with playing the game like this is that my arsenal is incredibly limited, both in options and actual ammunition. I also did this entire run without using any kind of healing med. Not sure why I did this, but there you go, I guess. Anyways, I've yapped for far too long. Let's start the run. Now, you may think my character would be based off Steve this go around, you know, from hit movie, a Minecraft movie, given the sheer amount of crafting I'm going to be doing. But no, there's only one man suited for this job, master of the art of consumable, and certified king of chucking random crap without question or hesitation. I am of course referring to the one and only Scholar from Nightreign. Every box barrel merchant and crab in the Commonwealth will tremble in fear as the Limvale equivalent of Andrew Zimmerman carves his path through Boston. As for my stats, I originally started with 6 perception, 10 intelligence, and 9 endurance, but I wound up having to change them later using totally legitimate means. The real stats that I used were 3 strength, 5 perception, 8 intelligence, 7 endurance, and everything else at 1. This spread gave me the most crafting perks, which was vital for gaining access to the crafting recipe for most consumables. Out in the not-so-fresh air of the wasteland, I find this rather dapper suit, which when mixed with my Americano Pip-Boy and beard allows me to channel my very own inner emancipator. Sadly, this is neither the time nor the place for living legends, so it's time to get down to business. I only have crafting rights for 3 types of consumables right now, those being call traps, bear traps, and Molotovs. As I'm sure many of you may know, call traps are about as useful as an anchor on a sinking ship, so I somehow doubt they're going to be seeing much use today. Unfortunately, I don't have any glass for Molotovs yet, so it looks like bear traps are the lucky winners as of now. I use the simple workshop scrap and store trick to gather the necessary materials to craft a decent chunk of traps, and I'll tell you right now, the bear traps are lousy. They only deal 30 damage, which although is respectable for early game, isn't nearly enough to offset the fact that each trap weighs 8 pounds. On top of that, they are single use. You are supposed to be able to recover them after use, but 9 times out of 10, they would just break anyways. To put the cherry on top of the already teetering wedding cake, the traps are incredibly difficult to use. They function almost exactly like landmines, except unlike their volatile counterparts, the bear traps obviously don't explode. This leads to awkward situations where, I kid you not, people would clearly walk over the traps only for them not to get hurt. Case in point, even the pathetic noodle men running around Concord were able to give me a run for my caps. The bear traps could still kill most raiders in one go, but actually sticking the ruffians was unbelievably tough. The only way I could reasonably kill them was by running up to their ugly mugs and checking my metallic babies point blank, which kind of defeats the whole point of a trap if you think about it. I was still able to handle things, mind you, but this does not make me particularly excited for large-scale encounters like upcoming Deathclaw fight. Speaking of Alduin's derpy little cousin, fighting him was by far the highlight of the bear traps. Don't get me wrong, I still had a few more Jurassic Park moments than I'd like, but you cannot sit here and tell me that kiting the scaly bastard into 6 or so traps, instantly killing him, doesn't at least pique your interest. Wait a minute. The traps designed for big game are in fact more effective on big game? Color me surprised. If I'm being completely honest here, I have no idea why I actually helped Gravy Train. I certainly wasn't going to be siding with the Minutemen today, so there was no point clearing out Concord. No point aside from the murder XP, of course, that's always appreciated. Leaving Concord, I bump into Dump Truck Debbie, who actually serves some kind of purpose this run, given that she's almost guaranteed to have some form of glass buried in her pile of literal garbage. After securing a rather lovely brown bottle, I returned to Sanctuary and casually broke the laws of physics by creating matter from nothing. The reason glass is so important is because it was the last ingredient I needed to craft Molotovs, remember? Something I was hoping would round out my arsenal. To my surprise and frankly delight, the Molotovs are amazing compared to the rest of the crap I've been working with. High base damage, lightweight, easy to craft, damage over time, oh game, you spoil me. You wanna know what's funny though? The absolute best part of the cocktails was their ability to explode on contact. Unlike most grenades, which have to do this awkward few bounces every time they're tossed, Molotovs explode as soon as they hit any man building or unsuspecting mole rat. Because of this, they bypass Fallout 4's somewhat fickle hurt boxes, automatically making them one of the finest tools at my disposal. With my new firepower in hand, I give Wolfgang and Simone a warm welcome before heading south to continue the main story. In order to really upset the formula I tend to go through in these runs, I don't do the usual song and dance at Cambridge. Instead, I sung a rather fiery soprano at dance. Unable to take the heat from my extra spicy meatballs, Dance's inner servos melt like that one plastic spoon that somehow wound up in the washing machine despite you never seeing it in your life. With Buzz and his cronies sufficiently roasty toasted, I continued my journey south so I can show the local crooks how a real mobster does it. Triggermen are squishy any day of the week, so as you can imagine with it being Pizza Friday and all, they were feeling particularly weak in the knees. Most of the Triggermen would go down to just one well-placed Molotov, and even the weirdly tanky ones weren't able to stand up to more than two. While I was down in this station, I figured I might as well try to give the bear traps a try again. Unfortunately, they're still garbage though. I mean, come on, how many bear traps does one Triggerman falling down the stairs need to trip? Even after this disastrous fail, I attempted to give them another opportunity with Dino, and at least they were able to somewhat restore a little bit of my faith in comically oversized traps. Dino was by far the most notable thing that happened down in the vault, as Skinny and his gang stand far too close together to be even remotely considered a threat to me and my explosive instruments of death. By this point, I'd actually reached the level threshold to unlock frag grenades, thanks to me crafting like a maniac whenever I wasn't slaughtering. I decided not to use them just yet, because when I started this run I set up certain points that I would be allowing other consumables to be added into the fray. According to my own stupid rules, frag grenades were off limits until Fort Hagen, so with nothing stopping me from heading to the fort, I figured now's as good as time as any to test my damage against the synths. To add some extra spice, I cleared out Mo's inventory multiple times, so that I could get a healthy supply of baseball bombs. One good thing about this run is that weapons and ammos are quite literally worthless to me, so caps were never really an issue. If it was spice I wanted, I certainly wasn't getting it with the baseball grenades, as for all intent and purposes, they are simply a reskinned frag grenade with less damage. To make matters worse for the poor things, they suffer from the whole I'm gonna bounce all willy-nilly like someone coated me in rubber syndrome, making them far less effective than the Molotovs. I feel like that's a sentiment we'll be seeing a lot during this run. Oh well, no use crying over spilled nuclear waste. Molotovs go brrr. As for Frosted Flakes, well, I decided since he's kind of a major encounter, he might as well get some special treatment.
You triggered my trap card!
With Kellogg's remains scattered across the waste like some kind of evil deity, I claim whatever the hell is left of his now pudding-like brain and take the party over to Good Neighbor. I didn't feel like discussing the same old jog through the glowing sea and Kellogg's past traumas, so instead here's me killing Swan for your guys' amusement. I hope you all enjoyed the fight. All 5 seconds of it anyways. Continuing the main story, and Molotovs continue to shine, as they absolutely ravage the gunners in green tech. Don't get me wrong, the other grenades still get their moment in the spotlight, but it still surprises me just how effective the Molotovs continue to be this late in the game. Believe it or not, the missile gunner wasn't actually the biggest problem this go around. I just sniped him with a grenade when I had the chance. No, instead it was the gunners that typically lead up to him. Seeing as 100% of my arsenal is in fact very explosive, those 2 dudes with batons really gave me a run for my money. Still, thankfully through the power of foresight, I was able to stop them before they began to become too much of a problem. As for the Courser, well, he just got served a plate full of mines courtesy of Scholarly Wise. The major antagonists of these games really need to learn to watch their steps. Never know when someone's just gonna place like 40 mines at their feet. Believe it or not, I don't immediately turn the railroad into meat puppets as soon as I'm within a 10-foot radius of them. I instead play nice for the time being, as I actually plan to help them. Sorry, not used to saying that. At least it was until Desdemona still insisted I do tradecraft. Yeah, I never pulled out a Molotov so fast. With the Deacons of the Deep feeling a bit more hollow than usual, I returned to the Sanctuary since Dance is currently doing his best rotisserie chicken impression, and Dez is feeling a bit under the 6 feet. It looks like 60 seconds, and his ragtag group of clinically depressed and or insane individuals are going to be my go-tos this time around. Yes, I still have to do their initiation quest like the Railroad, but then again, it's much easier to kill like 2 settlers instead of following Deacon through the entire switchboard. After the Molotovs claimed yet another 2 souls, I returned to Sanctuary, built the MacGuffin, and broke into the Institute. At the Institute, I immediately got to work for Sean and the rest of the college kids, as at this point more people want me dead than alive in the above ground. This just means I have to round up a fellow Albinoric, but before I do that, I went and did the Cobbett questline. Sure, fighting the juiced up raiders in and around Lorenzo Cobbett was a good way to test how well my build could handle stronger enemies, but surely I was just in it for the fashion. Not too much to say about my time with the Commonwealth's second most dysfunctional and mortal family. I was able to easily bat away most of the raiders with a well-placed Molotov. With my appetite for bloodshed and fashion sated for a little while, I decided now I could return to the Institute and handle things with X6. Before I set out to capture Gabe, I quickly built a good chunk of pulse grenades. These ones are basically identical to baseball and frag bombs, except they deal energy damage. Although it's a simple change, it actually gives the pulse bombs a pretty good niche for dealing with enemies that are very physically tanky. Anyways, the raiders at Libertalia weren't much stronger than the ones at Parsons, so they didn't pose too much of a threat. I say too much because of course there's always Homeboy with the fat man who would like nothing more than to absolutely ruin my day with a well-timed explosive. Thankfully, due to the fact my aim with explosives will spontaneously become so precise it even scares me, I was able to give him a good thrashing the next go around. With Gabriel, I continued the ongoing tradition of doing exactly what I told Sean I was going to do. It's not like he can complain, I said I would destroy him, and I meant it. Sean isn't remotely fazed by my transgression, instead he feels it's best to put me up to another important task. Once again, I tell him exactly what I'm planning on doing, before executing said plan at Bunker Hill. To my surprise and honestly horror, the railroad seemed to finally have taken enough of my crap and actually came equipped with decent gear this time. Not that it changed anything, mind you, they might as well have sent toddlers with squirt guns to fight me, as at least at that point, I would have felt a little bad when I let the grenades fly. Speaking of flying, using the power of napalm, I send the corpses of the synths flying around the room before giving my courser the old Kellogg play. It never ceases to amaze me how easily you can invalidate some of the most difficult encounters in the game using only a few landmines. Realizing I wasn't going to level up nearly enough through the remaining quest to unlock the final grenades, I returned to Sanctuary and crafted mines until my fingers went numb. The resulting XP made me so smart that I'm able to craft the highest tier of explosive, that being plasma. After all this time, it seems that something can finally give Molotovs a run for their money, as the plasma grenades and mines do a whopping 450 damage in total. This is easily enough to one-shot even some of the toughest enemies, although that being said, I still have to work with the wonky hitboxes that come with standard grenades. No use dwelling on that for now. I want to test my handheld atom bombs, and no better place to try than mass fusion. The Brotherhood here are actually very strong, probably because I'm nearing level 40 by this point. But they were no match for the power of Blue Man. Never change, Fallout 4. Never change. Believe it or not, easily the hardest part of mass fusion was the elevator ride. Sure, I could wipe out even the strongest of the Brotherhood's units, but that doesn't protect me from the ultimate danger, myself. The amount of times I accidentally dropped one of my miniature nuclear reactors right at me and Ali's feet was staggering. Here at mass fusion, I actually got one of my favorite kills of the run, however, when through the power of foresight, I unleashed a devastating surprise attack on the Knight Captain in power armor who ambushes you at the bottom of the elevator. The trick shots didn't stop here, as I was able to use a good chunk of my landmines to reduce the legendary sentry bot to a puddle. Sadly, the traps I set for the other robots weren't so successful. This led to a few more slip-ups than I care to admit. Also, credit to this absolute unit of a Protectron upstairs who literally walked through a trail of pulse mines completely unfazed. He didn't live, mind you, but I respect him for it. Returning to the Institute, I give Ali the thingy and then let the primates have fun playing with the boys at Bioscience. I then ignore Sean, ignore him some more, make a rousing speech, leave Trey a parting gift during my brief visit in Diamond City, and kidnap a man for reasons. Thanks to the fact I've already taken care of the Choo Choo Soul, it's already time to sink the Brotherhood's battleship. The poor tin men at Boston Airport were probably really rethinking their life choices when a single man in a dapper suit managed to breach every single one of their defenses. But now here comes the crappy bit. I am, shall we say, ill-fitted to protect the synth virus, and my backup was ill-fitted to being backup. So I was at a bit of an impasse. Unlike with siding with the Brotherhood, there is no way for me to rely on my fellows to take care of things. I am unable to protect the head honcho without blowing said honcho's head to Kingdom Come. So the solution? Kill literally every member of the Brotherhood. It took a while, and since the Steely Bros are Bethesda's favorite child, they are actually really formidable enemies. Case in point, Maxon alone took like 6 plasma grenades to kill. And that's not counting his private vertibird. Still, after enough waiting, sleeping, throwing, waiting, sleeping, throwing, throwing, waiting, sleeping, sleeping, waiting, waiting, throwing, and a little more throwing, I was able to clean house, or rather airport. With the Brotherhood no longer constantly breathing down its neck, the synth virus can finally overcome its stage fright and deal one last blow to Maxon's pride. Feeling in a good mood, I return to the Institute and create one final masterpiece. This would be my coup de grace, my Mona Lisa, my Bloodborne. 68 plasma mines, 40 fragmentation mines, 26 pulse mines, and my very heart and soul poured into this bad boy. But most importantly of all, my final bear trap. With a single Molotov, I ignited the flame of my effort and watched as a second sun was born around my only son. The blast was magnificent, enough to make a GPU shudder and outright kill a Nintendo Switch. And yet I underestimated my opponent. In that moment, I witnessed true greatness. Sean, the sick wee boy that he was, somehow lived the blast. All the slander, all the crude insults I ever threw at him were revoked in that moment. Sean, or rather Giant Dad, as we shall refer to him from this day forth, was the manliest man that ever did man. It's just a shame his unfathomable power was not enough to protect him from plot sickness. Sean finally died, proving yes, you can beat Fallout 4 with consumables. And it's surprisingly overpowered. I really wasn't expecting the explosives to perform this well. Once I started this run and started using the bear traps, I thought I was just doomed. But the further we made it down the line in the crafting table, the more just unhinged things got. Plus, you guys know me, I happen to very much enjoy anything of the volatile variety, so this run was right up my alley. Regardless, that's all I have for today's video. If you did enjoy, maybe consider leaving a like or even subscribing. My name's Christian, but most people know me as aGhoul, and I'll see you in the next video.